Hey there. I suppose you're wondering why we're all here today. We're going on a railroad journey. Rhinecliff, New York, the Rhinebeck in Connecticut. Way back when. So let's hear a little bit about it. Now, the original station down in Rhinecliff was built in 1851, trackside, right down at water level. It was known as the Rhinebeck Station till 1875. Then it was changed to Rhinecliff, more suiting. The Hudson River Railroad ran from New York City all the way north to Albany, New York, with a stop in Rhinecliff. That was about the halfway point. Now, Rhinecliff was chosen for a stop along this railroad because it had already been a ferry stop from the Kingston side to the Rhinecliff side on the Kingston and Rhinecliff ferry. The riders would cross by ferry into Rhinecliff, back to Kingston. Then they would travel by rail or wagon to points west into the Catskills and their journeys and their vacations and their workplaces. The original Rhinecliff station had suffered a public scrutiny. You see, it had fallen into disrepair and nobody was really taking care of it. So this was small space, lack of proper maintenance, the usual. You know, sometimes our houses fall into disrepair. Well, we'll get to it tomorrow. Well, tomorrow kept getting pushed back in Rhinecliff's particular situation. Then eventually the railroad's new owner, Cornelius Vanderbilt, he ordered a station, a non-used corrugated iron station that was sitting vacant down in Yonkers, New York, further down towards New York City, to be shipped up to Rhinecliff and to replace the old unsightly one. It was getting a bad reputation. So old Cornelius Vanderbilt, he just did that. He had that new station brought right up, and there it sat. Same place, right on water's edge, right at the tracks, and it seemed to prompt a little bit more positive public scrutiny this time. Now, I suppose that was right around 1877. That station was in place till 1909, when the current railroad station in Rhinecliff, which we're going to show you, was built. It was built on higher ground, up on the bluff, overlooking the tracks. See, the original railroad station was at river's edge, at track level. This new one in 1909, which is the current one standing today, was built up on the cliffs, about 40 feet higher than the railroad tracks. And the construction of that new station was designed by the same firm that was commissioned to design and build New York City's Grand Central Station. So that's pretty cool in and of itself. I had never known that. But you can really tell by looking at the two architectural features on both of the buildings. Rhinebeck, New York, most people equate it with wealth and prominent people, and it is. That's not a stretch. It's always had its fair share of wealthy people, famous people. You hear their last names and you think instantly, you think wealth, think prominence, stature in the community. And so Rhinebeck had a lot of these types of folks. And a lot of these folks had purchased and had built custom rail coaches, Pullman cars and whatnot, to go from Philadelphia to New York and then up to Rhinecliff, where they would be spotted on a siding. And then their chauffeurs and their folks would come down and pick them up and bring them back up to their hillside estates in the Rhinebeck, Rhinecliff, Red Hook area. And there the coaches would sit and they would be cleaned and they would be prompted for the next trip, either up to Albany or back down to New York City. So Rhinecliff also boasted a very substantial freight business. It was primarily coal. It was mixed products, but primarily coal. And the coal from the Pennsylvania coal fields made its way to Rhinecliff via the Delaware and Hudson Canal. Now, this Delaware and Hudson Canal came all the way from Honesdale, Pennsylvania, up to Rondout, which is little hamlet there at the bottom of the hill in Kingston, the Rondout section, right on water's edge. And the canal boats would bring the coal up from Honesdale. Oh, there's a bitter chill here all of a sudden. It's about 4 degrees while I'm out here filming this. Rather cold today. So these coal cars, these rather canal boats would bring the coal up from Honesdale, and that was about a 108-mile journey from Honesdale to Rondout. And there they would be kind of placed in line and readied to either go south to New York City, north to Albany, or in some cases they were ferried across the Hudson River to Rhinecliff, where they would be offloaded onto train cars, and then via the newly formed Rhinebeck and Connecticut Railroad, they would be bound for points east up into New England once they crossed the state line in Millerton, Lakeville area. We'll get to that a couple extra videos from now. Now, this railroad, the Rhinebeck and Connecticut, it had about a 35-mile stretch. It went from Rhinebeck, obviously up through, from RHINECLIFF to Rhinebeck to Red Hook, and from Red Hook it would go up into what was known as Fraley's back in the day. Maybe some local folks know Fraley Lane. That's about that general vicinity. From Fraley's it would go up into Spring Lake, and then ELIZAVILLE. Now we're up into Columbia County, and ELIZAVILLE on over into Jackson Corners, Jackson Corners on down slightly into Mount Ross, over into Silvernails, where it wide. In Silvernails it wide, continued northeasterly, and it also backtracked down into Pine Plains, which was quite a railroad hub in and of itself. So from Silvernails it went up into Gallatinville, and then Ankrum, over into Copake, across Route 22, over into Boston Corners, which at the particular time was really not even acknowledged as part of New York State yet. It was in that oblong section that basically, if you look at modern day, you'll see New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts kind of form a point right there. It's in and of about that general area. And then from Boston Corners, it would officially end as the Rhinebeck and Connecticut, and then it would travel on leased trackage on down to Mount Riga, into Millerton, and across state line into Connecticut and continue east. The railroad, the Rhinebeck and Connecticut, was affectionately known as the Huckleberry Line, or the Hucklebush Line. And that's because there were certain grades, certain uphill grades, where the steam motive power of the day just couldn't get a good head of steam going to go faster than 2 or 3 miles an hour. And a lot of folks would hop off, and they would take their baskets and sometimes their hats, and they would pick huckleberries off of the bushes, pack their bushels in their baskets and their hats, and hop back on the train as it made it up that steep grade. Couldn't do that nowadays, could you? Well, you could try. So the Rhinebeck in Connecticut, as I said before, was about 35 miles. In fact, I believe 35.2 miles. In 1882, it was purchased by the Hartford and Connecticut Western Railroad. And then in 1903, it was leased to the Central New England, very large New England Railroad. In the early years of railroading, there were typically many buyouts, mergers, consolidations, bankruptcies, sometimes through no fault of the owners, just a series of circumstances. And the Rhinebeck in Connecticut was no exception to this. Back in the day, most railroad workers, well, they were paid about $1.25 to $2 a day, depending on their position. And they managed to somehow get through. So that's just a little snippet here as we talk about the Rhinebeck in Connecticut. This will be the first. I will be covering Rhinecliff to Red Hook. which doesn't seem like a lot of miles in today's day and age when we can go 65 miles an hour in a car. But there's a lot to see, and in the upcoming videos, I'm going to try to get to as much of it as I can. I hope you enjoy this one. I hope you enjoy the ones to come. And I hope I don't get arrested or bit by snakes in the summertime. Catch you on the next one. Now, if I were a betting man, I'd have to go with you cannot fit a car up those steps. Always graffiti too. Now, I would say from where I'm standing down on River's Edge, tracks are right behind me, I would say we are about 35 feet below the road level up top, and the peaky tippy of those houses. So now we are way at the tippy north end of the parking lot for the RHINECLIFF station. That's it down there in the background. I'm looking south. Here are the rock cliffs, and this is at the extreme northern part of the northern parking lot. It's very interesting as we zoom on past that car to envision what it took back then to break away and chip away at this rock. They didn't have hydraulic excavators. They didn't have thumbs and man lifts, booms, and power steering and heat, and GoPros. That's looking way north. And that is the Kingston RHINECLIFF Bridge. Again, the Hudson, the Catskills, and there's that tanker. That would be Kingston Point. So here's the elevator shaft. There's elevators at the RHINECLIFF station and stairs. And that's the station. Keeping in mind that we're at track level, we're probably, oh, there's that beautiful sun. We're probably 5 feet above River's Edge at track level. And again, rock ledges, and you can just barely see the tip of a house up there. 35, 40, 45 feet up. So when they originally built this station, it was right here, track level, water level. They engineered it and moved it up higher. That's the 1909 building that you see right there. Let's go. So I've come about a quarter of a mile north of the RHINECLIFF station property, and I'm in the old rail yard. That's evident by that big concrete platform there, festooned with some graffiti. Little section house there, more of a utility shed, some ties, just the ROW right here looking south, and some extra rail, big brand new high rail. And over here, oh, got some Amtrak booga graffiti on their trailers. Looking north, a couple of light towers, and way off in the distance, that building up there, that house, is just about at grade level of the old Rhinebeck in Connecticut ROW. There's another fairly modern concrete platform. really cold out today down here. It's the end of February. We just had a 12-inch snowstorm. There's some rails. They go right into that pile. It's an old siding. I used to spot a boxcar, I'm sure, right here with a small ramp and offload onto that platform. And the old Rhinebeck in Connecticut right-of-way is over there by the Rhinebeck water treatment plant. There's always a Rhinebeck water treatment plant employee here, but it's Sunday and he's not. Otherwise I could possibly ask to go in there and film it. But anyway, this basically is the yard where it all took place. They had sidings. Here comes some sun. Wow. They had a roundhouse down here, maintenance sheds, and a bunch of sidings. I'm here on Slate Dock Road, Rhinecliff, for a quickie. No, not that kind. That brick building down there is the Rhinebeck wastewater plant. And if you look at that flat roof and you go right above it, you might discern the old Rhinebeck in Connecticut right-of-way. It literally today, modern day, 2022, cuts right through. Basically, it's a big old fill section that goes right through the middle of water on both sides. And right down there is where milepost 0 would have been, where it would have branched off the main line and headed east and north. So right at the top of the hill in Rhinecliff, at the top of the hill of Slate Dock Road, is this sign, put here in 1932. Apparently there's some ruins here. Let's go look. There they are. Wouldn't have worn my flip-flops today if I'd known I'd been going through a foot of snow. Critter. Looking for something to eat. Well, folks, I hope you didn't get too enthused, but here it is. Can still see the footprint of the foundation. It goes off that way. We'll have to come back and do a separate video on this one. Find out who he was and what he was and what size shoe he wore. Alright, let's go. Well, we stumbled on another one, folks. Also put here in 1932. Gives us a little information about the Ulster and Delaware on the west side of the Hudson, and the Ulster and Salisbury over here on the east. Salisbury, Connecticut, that is. Interesting. We'll have to do a whole new one on just Rhinecliff alone. Stay tuned. Well, it may not look like it, but I am indeed standing on the right-of-way railbed of the Rhinebeck and Connecticut Railroad. About a quarter of a mile north of Rhinecliff, past the yard, past where the roundhouse would have been, on its very, very steep uphill grade from Rhinecliff to Rhinebeck. And this old gem is an old rooming house, I imagine. Boy, if those walls could talk, they'd probably have a lot to say. Let's get out of here. is indeed the dead-end part of Long Dock Road. Not very impressive until you say, well, okay, we are indeed right on the right-of-way, and if you peer that way through that gate, continues the long uphill grade up to the property of the farm. And here's just an overview of the river, the Kingston Bridge, Catskill Mountains, and that piece of land jutting out into the Hudson on the other side of the tracks is what remains of Long Dock, where the ferry would have come from Kingston over to Rhinecliff. There's a guy out there walking. Not sure if you can see him. Looks like he's got a gun. He might be going out to bag himself a duck for his supper. Okay, let's go. Well, I get the feeling they don't want us down there, but this is the next northerly point of public access. Ha ha ha, public. On the old RNC. I'm actually standing on Ryan Road. I came up from RHINECLIFF on RHINECLIFF Road, and I turned onto Ryan Road. It goes right smack through the middle of Creed Ankeny Farm, and this is where it comes up from the river and where it crosses Ryan Road and intersects with and crosses River Road. See if I can do this without getting killed. Police officer just went down that way, kind of eyeing me up. But anyway, I'm basically walking it, and as you can see, it goes right down into a private driveway off of River Road. That's the rail bed, folks. All right, got a semi coming. Nice little drainage ditch here. The creek runs down, crosses River Road, goes into a really nice stone abutment. There's Sam the silver car, all hand laid culvert, crosses Ryan Road and continues on down, flowing eventually into the Hudson River and the Port of New York City. This is an old wall, redone, recapped. A lot of stone walls around here. And anyway, it is all hand laid stone down there. What do you see? It's nice. So here I am at the next public spot that we can actually stand on the rail corridor. We are on Astor Drive. Astor, famous rich person name here in Rhinebeck. One of them went down on the Titanic, didn't they? Anyway, this is the continuation of the bed from the last point of interest on the intersection of Rhine and River, where it disappeared into that private driveway. And we got the standard utility poles, telltale sign. And those buildings there, that is a condo townhouse complex called the Gardens. So it abuts up to the property line. And doing a little spin around here. This is Astor Drive. And we are walking on the bed. It crossed and it goes down through the woods and into the great unknown, until it rears its head again at the next point. Let's get to it. So So if you kids are following along here on the Rhinebeck in Connecticut, the next public viewing spot, without getting hurt, maimed, or killed, is right here on Mount Rutson Road. Montgomery Street, Mount Rutson Road. This driveway is a private driveway, but look at that cool railroad sign of that old steam engine with a coal tender at the mailbox. This guy knows he's got a railroad bed for a driveway. So that's it coming up from RHINECLIFF, heading towards Rhinebeck. And you can park your car and get out and check this out. Don't go in his driveway though. The cross is over. And now, unfortunately, it disappears into oblivion because they've regraded and reseeded. And of course, we're out here in the winter time. All you can see is the snow. But we got some ruins over here. And these ruins were an old coal tipple, freight yard. Might have even been some oil tanks here. And this is, I believe, the site of the old Rhinebeck station. Right here at the end of Montgomery Street in Rhinebeck. Right here in the village, right on the village limits. And the bed would have gone out through there. And it continues up that way. Not very impressive looking now, but it does continue up that way. Sneaks along up through the Astor Flats. If you're in the village of Rhinebeck, you're heading north on 9. As you're headed towards the 99G light, you look off to your left and you can see the power lines out through there, the old utility poles. And that, of course, is the rail bed. So let's continue on. We'll go up to the next public spot where you can view the rail bed, and that's at the intersection of 99G and just a little bit north of there. So here we are at the aforementioned 99G intersection. Fortunately for us, there's been some snowmobile action here. But we are walking in the old Rhinebeck in Connecticut railroad bed. This is a nice fill section here. We're quite a bit up off the original grade. Kind of swampy and wetland on each side of us. Had to leave my car out on the main road. A lot of heavy traffic. But anyway, we'll walk in. I believe there's an old gate up here. And we'll walk in as far as that gate. And just to give you an idea. But if you're in the local area, it's Route 9 and Route 9G. And it's just north of that intersection on 9G. Just before CJ's Pizza. And here's the bed coming up to that gate. Rhinebeck in Connecticut. This would have been the tail end of the north end of the Astor Flats section that came up from RHINECLIFF headed towards Red Hook. And this is where we have to stop because of the gate and because I left my car out on the main road unlocked. And you know, there's a lot of scoundrels and hoodlums these days. But one interesting thing, if we look, the Astor Rhinebeck Associates. There's that name Astor again. Rich, affluent Astors. So the bed continues south from here. Looks like all they did was go up and around, bypass this gate. But we did pass a very interesting feature right up here. And actually, if you do find a place to park, maybe go to CJ's and grab some lunch someday and walk over from there so your car is safe. Mine is literally sitting a foot off the main road. Probably already been hit 4 times. But it's not too far to walk in off of 9G to the gate. Gives you a feeling. You can say, you know what? I got to walk the old Rhinebeck in Connecticut rail bed right here in Rhinebeck. Now here's what I saw on the way in. And it's icy and it's snowy today, so I'm not going to go down all the way, but there is a nice concrete reinforced. Let's see if I can do this without falling in the drink, dropping my GoPro, or hitting my noggin. Yeah, there we go. I can't quite reach my arm out enough to get a date, but let's go look at the other side. You know, all of these brooks and creeks and streams, high sections, low sections, just imagine the challenges that they presented to the original builders of this railroad. This one's a little more overgrown. I can get down a bit closer than the other side, but it's too overgrown to see a date. It's concrete. I'm gonna guess early 1900s, my guess. But anyway, little stream crosses 9G right up there, and it crosses, or it goes under, I should say, the roadbed. Now let's get back up. There we go. And I can see my car from here, which is a good thing. I cannot see how many times it's been hit. Just to give you a reference point, that's the 99G light right there. That's the gas station. So like I said, we're not too far in. Sometimes you have to just look at the end of your nose to find some interesting stuff. Well, we're gonna walk on back. It crosses 9G right here, and it continues north to the west of current modern day Route 9, which I guess is the same as old day Route 9, and it eventually goes up into Red Hook. Let's go. So we've come on up northeasterly from our last location, 9 and 9G. We traveled north on 9, took a left on Rokeby Road, and there's really no safe place, there's no public place. You really cannot get in there at all without getting arrested for trespassing. So I backtracked out of Rokeby Road, went into a little development off of there, and you can see the rail bed behind folks' houses, but again, it's private property, you have to respect that. But anyway, the rail bed sneaks on along northeasterly and then takes kind of a hard turn behind the Lyceum Theater and back in that stretch, and it comes right here. And where we are is the intersection of Old Farm Road and Cambridge Drive in Red Hook. And this is the corridor looking westerly currently, but in a southwesterly direction. And I'm standing on the bed, and of course there are some new buildings going up, quite a few. It's the trend these days. They're building them, people are buying them. And anyway, it crosses the road and it goes again in a northeasterly direction towards the village of Red Hook, that way. Old Farm Road, just before Cambridge Drive. Look for the stockade fence. Well, here we are right on Route 9 in Red Hook. The bed continues right around Colburn Drive, follows a stockade fence, and it crosses Route 9 in Red Hook just at the village limits by the Rhinebeck Savings Bank, and it continues easterly down Firehouse Lane. Let's go down Firehouse Lane, see what we can find. So just a little interesting tidbit here. behind the Rhinebeck Savings Bank is this quaint little house here. And this quaint little house has been really nicely restored and rebuilt. It's currently a Chamber of Commerce for Red Hook, and it is actually shows up present on some aerial photographs from the 30s and 40s, connected to a cold storage building right out on the railroad line on Firehouse Lane. When you first turn in Firehouse Lane off of Route 9, there are stone and concrete ruins. Let's go take a look. So again, just a point of reference, the red building in the back there is the Chamber of Commerce, a little small apparent office building to the cold storage. And we're in the Rhinebeck Savings Bank parking lot right here on Firehouse Lane. And we'll walk down a little ways. They nicely shoveled the sidewalk for us. Nice of them. Concrete post right there. So this was quite a large complex, and I do believe it oh, there's my telephone. I do believe it came down in the late 80s, early 90s. I seem to recall that time period anyway. And it's concrete, so it's not before the turn of the century, but this area on aerial photographs, again from the 30s, 40s into the early 50s, before they started really building housing developments after the war for all the baby boomers, was all apple orchard, and cold storage facilities were very, very necessary. Come to the end here just before Glen Pond Road. Yep, here's the corner. There were some outer bankings on the foundation. I guess if I had to guess, this building was probably maybe 80 by 250 ish, and it's all just one big flat stretch of snow right now, but it's still here. Firehouse Lane, Red Hook. So coming down Firehouse Lane in Red Hook from Route 9 by the Rhinebeck Savings Bank, you're driving right down the bed, and this is the Agway facility. This is the old original Agway building right here. These were feed shops, feed stores. That is an engineering and architecture firm right now, but that's the actual old Red Hook train station right there. I'm standing on the bed. There were sidings, there was a rail yard here, there was a lot of commerce, truck docks. This is almost the end of this video, but we're going to end on a high note. We're going to go see one last little piece of Red Hook history, and it's right around the corner, just past that car. The Red Hook Chocolate Factory was the brainchild of W.H. Baker from Winchester, Virginia. He was a successful grocer at the time, and he saw a trend toward sweets and folks craving eating chocolate, as it was called, as compared to baking chocolate. So old WH, in the late 1890s, he built the Red Hook Chocolate Factory around 1900 or so. 1899, 1900, I imagine construction started, and it took a few years. By 1930, 31, the thriving chocolate business had gone kaput. Great Depression hit, and like a lot of other niceties and extras and extravagant lifestyle changes, chocolate went down the tubes too for a while. Had a resurgence though, little hint. So during the Roaring 20s, when everything was great, chocolate was great, and old WH he had a great business. Then of course the Depression hit, and the rest is history. Things rebounded, as I said. During the peak production years of the Red Hook Chocolate Factory, they were producing right around 20,000 pounds of eating chocolate. And for those of us with a sweet tooth, that's a mighty nice figure, isn't it? The factory was sold in 1924 to the Walker Candy Company. Then it completely closed, ceased operations in 1932. And sometime around the mid to late 1930s, the building itself was converted to a cold storage freezer unit. And it produced juice concentrate and old Ma Wagner's TV dinners. Anybody out there remember Ma Wagner's TV dinners? I remember Swanson. I don't really remember Ma Wagner's. I'm old, but not that old. The building there, the Red Hook Chocolate Factory, sadly it sat vacant, abandoned, empty till the early to mid 1980s. There was a resurgence in restoring old buildings and rehabbing them. And right around 1994, 1995, Dr. George Verrilli purchased the property that the Red Hook Chocolate Factory sat on. And he began the slow and meticulous, very, very well done restoration and creation of little small boutique kind of suites, if you will, as compared to the SUITES suites, not the chocolate suites. Nice little mom and pops moved in. He had his Eastgate Motors located there on the east side of the building, still there. He restores and redoes old vintage automobiles. And so that's about the history that I know of the Red Hook Chocolate Factory. The building still stands, and I'm hoping to get a little creative in the video here at some point, midway through, maybe at the very end, to have a map, even if it's a rough drawn out map of this video and of the spots that we located and found and talked about and highlighted on this map, so you can literally get in your horseless carriage and grab your sweetie and maybe some sweets and go for a ride and kind of find these spots that we're talking about on the Rhinebeck and Connecticut Railroad. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I know I'm having fun making it. I'll be bringing some more highlights to you as we go from RHINECLIFF to Rhinebeck to Red Hook, up into Fraley's and Cokertown, Spring Lake, up into ELIZAVILLE, and across over through Columbia County over to Boston Corners, down to Mount Riga, down into Millerton, and of course across state line into Connecticut. Thanks, guys. Feller Newmark Road, just east of Crestwood Road. We pick up the rail bed again, and it's a private property driveway, but it clearly very easy to tell. And that's looking south towards Red Hook. This road is indeed Feller Newmark. It crossed right here, continues north. There's Sam the silver car sitting on the railroad bed, and it continues up toward Spring Lake, Cokertown, Spring Lake, ELIZAVILLE, and this is the rail bed right here, folks. Guess we can't go that way anymore, but there it is, straight as an arrow. Sure do wish we could walk a whole lot of this. You know, wasn't that long ago, 20 years ago, you could walk every inch of rail bed in Dutchess and Columbia and Ulster County without fear of getting shot, arrested, chased off by wild dogs, crazed owners. Nowadays,
can hardly sit on the side of the road with your four-ways on without being harassed. Well, anyway, this is a great view. Wish we could walk it, but we can't. So again, for reference, Feller Newmark Road off of Route 9, heading east, just past Crestwood. We pick up the bed. Let's continue north. Here we are, kids, as promised. The Rhinebeck and Connecticut right of way, right here on Turkey Hill, Spring Lake, Cokertown. This private driveway here goes back into a gun club. There's a few houses back in there. It is semi-private. If I had a commercial vehicle with some lettering on it, I could go back in there and get some great shots. And if harassed, I could say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking for an address. Must be in the wrong spot. Thanks. But I don't. I have Sam the silver car. Anyway. Oh, that is, again, looking back towards Fraley's, Red Hook, Rhinebeck, and Rhinecliff. And then it crosses Spring Lake Road. And boy, oh boy, I'm going to take my life in my hands here. I got run off the road by an oil tanker. But here we see the remnants of the stone. Oh, my leg is stuck. Remnants of the old stone abutment that crossed this road here. If I had a excavator with a long reach and a nice rubber thumb and people to stop traffic, I sure as heck would grab some of them and bring them back home and build something cool in my backyard. Anyway, we're in March now. Snows are melting. Nice crystal clear water flowing here. So this is where it crosses. We're right here by the Red Hook Residential Center, Eddie Parker Youth Center. And now from here, the bed goes out. And it actually crosses some waterway in Spring Lake and comes out in ELIZAVILLE. We'll continue in a minute. Here comes a car. They're whizzing by me about 4 feet from my back. I wish I were a younger man. Bye-bye. Here we are at Spring Lake. And I'll try my best. I'm literally holding on with my left hand to a twig, hoping it doesn't snap, hanging out over the waterway just for you guys to get a shot. But that nice flat graded road bed out there is the rail bed, and that's about as far as I can get. That's it. This is frozen water in front of me, in between me and the road bed. And again, this is Spring Lake. Those buildings in the background there are the Red Hook Residential, Eddie Parker Youth Center. And we were just back in there where those stone abutments are. On to the next. This is the Spring Lake section, continuing northbound along the eastern shore of Spring Lake. You can see that nice, beautiful, flat roadbed corridor. And it actually, at this point, just at that gold yellow house there, crosses on the railroad-made peninsula in order to cross from the east shore to the west shore. And further north on Spring Lake Road, just at the hump in the road, from the last shot, the bed crosses Spring Lake Road, goes behind the backyards of houses on your left going north, crosses right here, and goes out into the backyard of the old hotel. And this beautiful gem of a picture-perfect straight as an arrow driveway is indeed the railroad bed, which leads to the aforementioned hotel. Now, as you're traveling north on Spring Lake Road, just before Williams Road, it'll be the last house on the right. And you'll know it's an old hotel because it sits about 2 feet off the road. If you blink and you misstep a little bit, you'd smash into it. It sits right on the road. This is the railroad bed, and it crosses right past Sam the Silver Car and goes out, crossing Spring Lake, and goes out and disappears into the Red Wing sand and gravel pit. So for a reference point, we are at the basic end of Spring Lake Road in ELIZAVILLE, and as you can see up by that nice blue American flag, and there's a tiny little tiny little railroad train there stuck in the ground. Well, that concrete and stone abutment, it was a bridge right across, and there's the other one on this side. So that is where the Rhinebeck and Connecticut Railroad crossed over Spring Lake Road and continues out, and right up over the hill there is the ELIZAVILLE station on Station Hill Road off of Turkey Hill Road. So continuing along Spring Lake, take the right on Turkey Hill, take the right on Station Road, and that leads you uphill to the rail bed and the former ELIZAVILLE station, now a private residence, and Station Road dead ends right at that residence. That is the rail bed. Just a little bit closer of a view of the abutment on Spring Lake Road on the west side of the road. This would be coming out of modern day Red Wing sand and gravel, and it crossed over to the east side where we have the concrete abutment up there, and we do have some beautiful original stonework down at road level, highway road level, not railroad road. There's a beautiful cornerstone. There was no modern machinery putting these stones in place. They were placed here well over 100 years ago, and they're still in place. So this is the east side of Spring Lake Road, and of course Mother Nature, trees, whatnot have taken over. There you go, little shot. This is the ELIZAVILLE Falls here. Pretty impressive today. We're on the tail end of the snow melt. You really don't want to come down that in a kayak or a rubber tube. So that's just a little side note while you're out driving in your horseless carriages with your sweetie and your sweets, checking out the old Rhinebeck and Connecticut bed. When you hit ELIZAVILLE and you do turn right onto Turkey Hill, stop on the side of the road, throw your four-ways on, and take a peek at the ELIZAVILLE Falls, which is right at the bottom of Station Road and the rail bed. Well, now we enter into a new realm. We've got the first really nice, impressive remaining relics on the Rhinebeck and Connecticut here in ELIZAVILLE. And I apologize, folks, I probably shouldn't have to, but you know, I've said it a few times. 15-20 years ago I would have been invited into a lot of these homes along the way and had a cup of coffee made for me and some fresh Danish by willing and eager folks just willing to share their information on the railroad and possibly share their houses and allow me to walk on their property and view the bed out through their backyards. It's 2022, man. Different world we live in. I've been harassed several times along my endeavors here by local folks and even a police officer because I'm some bearded scoundrel on the side of the road with a GoPro camera. Anyway, enough about that. You see the posted signs and the private property, and we have to respect that. But isn't this beautiful? Isn't that just gorgeous? And again, keeping in mind there were little steam donkey engines and derricks with ropes and pulleys and cable that set these stones, and they're still here 110, 120 plus years ago they were built. And it's just a testament to the quality and the workmanship of the folks back then. Yeah, we can do this stuff today, we just don't. So this is on, again, Turkey Hill Road, the minor Turkey Hill Road, not the main Turkey Hill Road. The Turkey Hill in ELIZAVILLE, right off of Spring Lake and County Route 19, by the falls, by Station Road. I just can't get enough of this old stonework, folks, and I know you can't too. Be sure and stop and check this one out. This is gorgeous. Traveling yet further east on Turkey Hill, past those gorgeous stone abutments, you will be having the rail bed on your right, rather raised up in the air, clearly evident here. And by here I mean just before we cross, the rail bed crosses Turkey Hill on that uphill side up there. Let's go take a peek. Okay, so we did make it here. Turkey Hill, ELIZAVILLE. This is where the rail bed, as you're looking at it right now, crosses Turkey Hill. Right here. Remember, folks, right here by the soda bottle. And crosses Turkey Hill, and it clearly goes down that private driveway, that beautiful cabin, and continues on down, actually in line with that old Ford truck back there. Again, posted, can't go on property. But I apologize for the jumpy camera here. We're going to try to climb down this bank without being named. It's raining out and it is quite muddy, and I'm not getting any younger, but you got to see this. Whoops, barbed wire. This goes underneath Turkey Hill. Isn't that nice? Isn't that pretty? Look at that. Boy, what a great spot. They don't build them like this anymore, folks. And looky, railroad ties. Could they be original? I rather doubt it, but you never know. Step on the green rock, Russ. They are railroad ties. And you can see where Sam the Silver Car is up there. Some iron. I'm going to say they're more modern than the original 1890s. Oh boy, here we go. Jumping across. Oh, looky, looky. Wow. That's gorgeous. Look at that. People driving on this road every day, folks, don't even know this is here. But we do. And now you do. Be a great place to hang out on a hot summer day. What do you think? I did manage to find a dry spot partially into the tunnel. And we're looking up at the bottom of the road. This was built by the railroad, folks. And boy, oh boy, it has survived the test of time. I'm getting dripped on pretty good. I think the total length, I'm going to say 45 feet. One side to the other. Just gorgeous. I might have to sneak up here on a hot July day and cool my feet off. Well, I come up off a creek level at the base of that tunnel. And I'm just going to walk down the bed a little ways. We are walking toward Rhinecliff, away from State Line. That's Turkey Hill Road right down there. Right there where Sam the Silver car is parked is the beautiful tunnel. And this is the old rail bed. Modern day travelers look at this and blink their eyes and turn the other way and keep driving. They don't know what it is, but we do. It's the Rhinebeck and Connecticut Railroad Bed Corridor. Well, if I were a few years younger, I'd venture down further, but this is the other side outlet of the tunnel I was just in. And the reason I say, oh, there's another chunk of concrete over there at the base of that big oak tree. The reason I say, if I were a younger man, it's pretty steep and it's very wet. And I'm by myself, and if I fall, nobody's going to know where I am. Sam the Silver car will sit there on the road and run out of gas. Somebody will see it and tow it home and bring it to the scrapyard. So I guess what I'm saying is I should have started this 30 years ago. Well, that about brings this video to an end. I hope you've enjoyed your travels with me. And as promised, I told you I'd have a map. Well, here it is. Now, I bet you didn't know I worked for Rand McNally back in the early 1900s. And this is what we used to do. I learned everything I know from Lewis and Clark. So here on the Rhinebeck in Connecticut, we started out, of course, in Rhinecliff. Right down there at milepost 0. Down on the river, across from Kingston. We ended up going on up into Rhinebeck and Red Hook and Fraley's and Spring Lake and ELIZAVILLE, where we found a lot of cool stuff along the way. Our adventure's going to pick up on our next video in ELIZAVILLE, and we're going to go on out into Gallatin, Mount Ross, Silvernails, Ankrum, Copac, on over into Boston Corners, down into Millerton and across the state line. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. This is my first video. If you like this one, do that subscribe thing. Put your comments in there. Tell me if you like it. Tell me if you don't like it. I hope you don't do that. Tell me if you want a map. I'll make you one. Well, anyway, we've enjoyed this adventure, and we hope you have too. And until we see you on the next time, happy putting.
soaked tongues, and all the scaffolding was down. On this triumphant day, we had some things to say, with all the lies we had drawn out. God bless the sun, God bless the sky.